Starting a podcast can be really exciting and incredibly nerve-wracking all at the same time. After all, you have to figure out all the gear you need, how to use it, and what to do with your file once it's recorded, but it might not be as complicated and as costly as you might think. So stick around and I'll tell you everything you need to know on how to start a podcast.
This is the place for podcasters.
Hey everybody, Brian here from Summit City Studios, and this is the place for podcasters. On this channel, we discuss tips, tools, and tech to help you create better podcasts. Today, I want to share 3 things you'll need to know in order to get started. The first thing you're going to need is a recording device. Now, this one is pretty obvious, but it's really important that we talk about it because there are all sorts of ways to do this. The simplest way would be to use what you already have. That might be your phone. Your phone has a pretty decent mic already built into it and could be used as a podcast mic if you are just starting out and looking to save a little money until you're ready to level up. Now, there are a few apps you can use to record on your phone, and you can do some research on that, but the simplest option would just be to use the voice memo app on your iPhone or whatever the equivalent might be on your Android or Google device. If you're looking to invest a little bit more in a better mic, you have a variety of other options, from lapel mics that plug directly into your phone or computer, USB mics like the popular Blue Yeti, XLR mics like the Rode PodMic or this PreSonus PD70, or even field recorders like the Zoom F1 with the attached SGH shotgun attachment microphone, which will allow you to capture richer and higher quality audio. These are all mics that I have picked up over the years and still use to this day, and I love each and every one of them for different reasons. I'll be doing some reviews of these mics in the future, so if you're interested or have questions about one in particular, let me know in the comments. And I've also posted links to all of these mics as well as the rest of my gear in the description of this video. But again, all you need to start recording your podcast is your phone. You can always level up your audio as you go, and there are even simple ways to do that without necessarily even purchasing a new mic, like recording in a quiet closet or throwing a couple blankets on your desk to dampen any potential echo and reverb off of the hard surface. If you'd like to see a video on some simple sound treatments that you can use at home, including what I use here in my home studio, drop me a note in the comments and I'll add it to my growing list. The next thing you'll need is software to edit the audio that you just recorded. And before I get into the apps that I recommend, I just want to take a moment to stress the importance of editing your podcast. Admittedly, this is probably the most time-consuming step in the process, and unfortunately, because of that, a lot of people straight up skip it. Now, it sounds like a great idea to be able to record and upload directly with no editing and no post-production, but there are some very simple things that you can do while editing that will help you stand out from the pack of all those who cannot or will not edit their raw audio files. Even just learning how to remove ums and uhs, deleting dead airspace, and cleaning up those places where you might trip over your words or potentially even lose your train of thought are skills that will help you keep your listeners more engaged throughout the podcast. Now, the 2 apps that I would recommend starting with, primarily because the price tag is so low, are GarageBand if you have a Mac or Audacity if you use a PC. GarageBand is native on the Mac and comes pre-installed, so if you're using a Mac, it is already there, just waiting for you to explore it. Audacity is another very free app that does in fact work with both Mac and PC. I just use a Mac, and I've personally just found GarageBand easier to learn and navigate than Audacity, but there have been some instances where having both have come in handy when editing a project. These apps also make it easy for you to be able to add intro and outro music that serves to really help identify your brand. So just because they're free doesn't mean they're cheap. Both GarageBand and Audacity are workhorses and have a lot of features to offer. There is a learning curve to both, but it is well worth your time to learn the basics and start editing your podcast right away. And that brings me to the last thing that you absolutely need in order to start a podcast, which is a hosting service. You're familiar with podcast directories like Apple, Google, and Spotify, but those directories don't actually store the audio for your podcast. That's where a hosting service comes into play. You see, a podcast host is where your audio file is actually housed, and that host generates what's called an RSS feed, which is what is sent to those podcast directories where people actually listen to your podcast. Now, each time you upload a new episode to that host, your host will refresh that RSS feed and update the directory, alerting people that you have a new episode available. Now, there are so many hosting services available to choose from, and each offers a unique set of features that may or may not be useful for you. So do your research, find out what you need, what you can do without, and what it's all going to cost you. You see, some hosting services only offer storage to house your files. Others will house the file and shoot the updated RSS feed that we just talked about to the directories of your choosing. And still others offer a website for your podcast, which actually is really helpful to have a central location to point people towards if you don't already have a website. Personally, I use a variety of hosts depending on the budget I'm working with and the features I need based on the particular project that I happen to be working on. The ones I'm most familiar with are Anchor, which I've used for a couple competitions through Rode Podcasts. If you want to check that out, Anchor has a free plan. Buzzsprout is probably the most popular one that's out there that you've probably heard about. Zencast is one that I think is growing. I've been using it for 3 years, and I've been seeing the name of Zencast.fm pop up more and more places. And then Sounder.fm is one that I currently use for one of my own podcasts as well. As I mentioned, some of these offer a forever free plan like Anchor, while others offer a limited free trial like Buzzsprout. So you may want to consider your goals for your podcast before you choose the host that you're going to use. So now you know the 3 things that you absolutely need to know to start a podcast. And now let me warn you. There will always be a shiny new mic, more advanced editing software, and a growing number of podcast host services out there to keep up with the rapidly growing number of podcasts that are being released daily. But when you're just getting started, there is no need to fork out a lot of cash to get the best gear when all you need is your phone to get started recording. I have another video that I'll link at the end of this one where I share 5 reasons that you should start a podcast. So now that you know how to do it, be sure to check out that one to discover the benefits of podcasting. So the question I have for you today is this: what topics do you plan to cover on your podcast? Let us know those topics and those themes in the comments below. And then if you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more tips, tools, and tech to help you create better podcasts. If you're interested in knowing more about Summit City Studios and how we can help you create a better podcast, visit us online at summitcitystudios.com. Thanks for watching, and keep an eye out for the next video.